Hello, BookTube. We're continuing on with my library tour of my science fiction and fantasy collection. I want to say this is all B books. These are all authors whose names begin with B. First up, we have three novels by Mark T. Barnes. Sorry about that. Let me see what the name of the series is. Okay. So these are all three parts, or all three volumes of the Echoes of Empire series. This is The Garden of Stones, The Obsidian Heart, and The Pillars of Sand. I picked these up because I'm forgetting which booktuber it was. I don't think he uploads anymore, but he recommended the series and I went and picked it up about a year or two ago. Need to finally get around to reading it though. Next, I have the first two books in the Song of the Shattered Sands series. This is 12 Kings in Sharakai by Bradley P. Bolio. And this is the second book, The Blood Upon the Sand. I really need to get to those two and pick up the rest of the series if I like it. Next, I have Masks by E.C. Blake. This came from A Better World Books through Alibris, and I want to say Blackgate Magazine had an article on this a few years ago, and it intrigued me enough to want to pick it up. And from the Friends at the Library Booksell Alco, we have James Blylock's Homunculus. And I have two books by Leigh Brackett. This is The Best of Leigh Brackett, which I showed during my Space Opera September wrap-up. I picked this up through Better World Books from Alibris. I did peel off the cover. It was like the sticker was right there and I just peeled it off. And I have The Book of Skaith, an omnibus of the adventures of John Stark by obviously Leigh Brackett. This is a former library book from Waco McLennan County Library. I picked this up during a Friends of the Library book sale a few years ago. Might have been the first one I went to. Next, I have two books by Marion Zimmer Bradley. This is Web of Darkness, which I picked up from the Friends of the Library book sale Nook or Alcove, and The Mists of Avalon. Her famous retelling of reimagining of the Arthurian legend. I picked this up from, I think, the Friends of the Library book sale probably like the first or second time I went. I read a chunk of Mists of Avalon a few years ago for a college paper. I think I checked it out at the library or just took it off the shelf and read it in the library and put it back. But, because I did a paper on Morgan Le Fay for English Lit 1. I mean, I'm not entirely sure about keeping Bradley in the collection. She's fallen out of favor for like her being permanently exiled from science fiction and fantasy's canon is appropriate after what happened. So yeah, sorry for that odd little thing. Her husband was incredibly abusive to their children, and it came out a few years ago that she herself participated in the abuse, and that basically her reputation in science fiction and fantasy has basically hit rock bottom and probably will never recover, nor probably should it. So anyway, moving on. I have a series by Peter Reed Brett. This is the, let me see if I can find the name of the series. They don't say. But it's a complete series by Peter Reed Brett. It starts with the Warded Man, moves on to, oh, it's the Demon Cycle. Sorry about that. The Desert Spear, the Daylight War, the Skull Throne, and finally the Core. All in mass market paperback, and I really should read these in the new year. I think I'll make a point of the series I've fully got all of to break down and read them. And now, rounding up this part of the shelf, we have a Sundiver by David Brin. I picked it up from might not be Better World Books. Might be one of the other Libra sellers I could use. Wizard at Large by Terry Brooks. This I picked up from the Friends of Library book sale Alcove. And I also picked up Genesis of Shannara by Terry Brooks, or Armageddon's Children. And I want to say this came from Golden's Book Exchange. This is Jereg by Stephen Brust. One of the, I am blanking on the series name for this one. And this is probably so old it's not in here. But it's the series that stars Vlad Taltos. And finally, Lies of Descent by Troy Carol Booker, which is a recent addition to my library, and I am planning on reading it this month. And I will talk about it after I finish. So that was all of shelf 2 of my science fiction and fantasy shelves. So I will be back tomorrow with shelf 3, or part 3, however I want to term it. So anyway, hope you're having a great day, BookTube, and I will talk to you later.